Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play Team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am your Keeper Michael, and we return to Horror on the Orient Express with our investigators now investigating Lausanne. And so as we return to this somewhat sleepy little town here near Switzerland, we need to get our introductions underway. So, to my right.
I'm Mike, and I'm playing James Robert Frazier, who has managed to spot an interesting gentleman buying some cigarettes.
Indeed. And to Mr. Frazier's right.
Hi, I'm Rena, and I'm playing Lady Elizabeth Fitzroy, and I just can't wait to see what happens when Maggie is inflicted on some poor young gentleman.
He's not that young at all, actually. He seems to be in his 50s, if your eyes are to be believed, at the end of the table.
Hi, this is Giles, and I'm playing Simon Griffith, and I still can't believe that the professor is such a criminal.
Yeah, there's a lot about the professor that none of you know, but more on that later. To Mr. Griffith's right.
Hi, I'm Miranda, and I'm playing Maggie Bellinger, who might be nervous for the first time ever in her life.
I find that hard to believe, actually. And last but most certainly not least.
I'm Martin, and I'm playing the creative Richard Courtney. He's definitely not a criminal. He just likes to find innovative solutions to difficult problems.
Yes, like gravity in your most recent coffee cup.
Exactly.
We return to Lausanne and the outside the cafe and chocolatier area where Mr. Frazier has spied a gentleman that's come out of the shop, or number 50 down the way there, and he's going to buy some cigarettes. And he's got him fingered for being the man they're looking for, Mr. Wellington.
So myself and Mr. Fraser are headed in his direction, correct?
Yes, indeed. Yes, hi.
At a distance of maybe that would indicate that we don't necessarily know each other.
Let's do that, yes, indeed. I'm just a tourist who has happened across a tobacconist and is looking for a refill for his tobacco pouch.
Oh, of course. Well, then Maggie, having stood and straightened her outfit out and walking across to where the gentleman is, will probably just directly ask him. Come up behind him and kind of clear her throat and, excuse me, Mr. Wellington?
Oh, you see him stand up a bit straighter. He turns and you see another patron of the shop step in line where he was. I'm sorry, do I know you?
Well, you do now. My name's Maggie Bellinger, and I will put my hand out to shake his hand. I've been waiting for you, actually.
He seems a little taken aback, but he takes your hand as any gentleman would take a lady's hand.
I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. I have something that I wish to discuss with you, and it may sound a little bit strange, but I have come into possession or have seen a letter that you wrote to a family in France.
He seems still a bit taken aback, but he steps a little closer to the counter. Just one moment, let me finish getting.
Of course.
What I'm here for. You see him finish the exchange with the shop owner. He tucks a few packs of cigarettes into his coat, and then immediately takes one out and lights it there on the street. So, a letter? He seems a little confused for a moment.
Yes, to a family in Poissy.
Poissy.
Yes.
He corrects, does a bit of corrective work on the French.
French is not my first language, as you may have noticed.
No, I can hear. He gestures just a little bit down the street, away from the front of the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you came upon this, you went in and saw them?
Yes, I did. I'm travel writing, and I have come across information on a historical artifact that I find rather interesting. I'm not sure if it's something that you wish to speak about here, or if there's somewhere else that you would like to go.
Intriguing. Just for a point of reference, Mr. Frazier, how far are you away from this conversation?
I think it depends exactly where that's happening. So I'll if they've kind of gone out of the tobacconists, I'll be standing, maybe looking at the window, pretending to be surveying the different wares, the different types of tobacco and that kind of thing. Just within earshot, but trying to be surreptitious and discreet.
Make me a spot hidden.
Of course. That is 26 under 78.
Hard success. Out of your left eye, you catch a couple of gentlemen walking through the streets of Lausanne. They're fairly well dressed. White shirt, tie, black jacket, coat. And they're both wearing the same sort of crimson red fez on their head.
What is their complexion? Are they mustachioed gentlemen?
Very much so. Darker skinned. And they seem to be standing just in the square there, pointed down the street, each having a cigarette, and they're probably a good 20 yards from you.
Okay, I am going to try and keep one eye very carefully on them and one eye on Maggie and the gentleman she's talking to. Do they appear to be paying any attention to him?
They're looking down that way, so it's a little tough to see whether or not they're directly looking at him or not. But their vision is definitely down this way of the street.
I'm going to, still keeping one eye on Maggie and Mr. Wellington. I'm going to stroll a little bit closer to them, just so that I can get a slightly better look at their faces. And what I'd like to do is make a psychology roll, if I can, to try and determine whether or not they are doing kind of what I'm doing, which is basically discreetly watching Mr. Wellington and his seeing what his business is.
That seems reasonable enough.
I'm quite wary and suspicious of these gentlemen. So, I will... So that's a 42. My psychology is 40. Yeah, I'll spend 2 points of luck, I think, on that. It's not too...
Yeah, you get a bad feeling that they're doing the same thing that you're doing.
Okay. In that case, I'll meander back down the street again, trying to be as discreet as I can, not drawing attention to myself. I'm just having a kind of a wander about, looking into shop windows, and I will approach Maggie and the gentleman in question.
Okay. They've stepped maybe 2 or 3 meters outside the front door of the shop, and he seems to be gesturing down back towards where he came from. You hear Maggie say something about wanting to have this conversation maybe somewhere a little bit more private, or insinuating such a statement. And he says, this place of business is just down the street here.
As I pass by, and I'm just going to walk past them, I'm going to kind of tip my hat to them as I walk past, and I'm going to try and quickly flash a look at Maggie, and then walk across to where Simon and the others are sitting. Specifically, I want to talk to Simon.
Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable enough.
Well, yes, that would probably be more appropriate. We could sit down and have a full discussion there then, rather than standing out here on the street.
Oh, well, wonderful. Madame, if you would accompany me.
Of course.
He offers you a cigarette.
Yeah, I'll take one.
You walk down the street, but not before he lights it as a gentleman. You get to number 50, which looks like sort of storefront, some sort of shop. He opens the door and gently offers you entry.
Yep, I'll go in.
So the first and most noticeable thing about the shop is its purpose. On the walls, on the floor, on the shelves, arraying this relatively small storefront space, are a series of taxidermied animals. Everything from birds to other types of small mammals. So anything from dogs to cats. There's a fair amount of them. So maybe 20 or 30. You see a lot of glassy-eyed looks that trace your path along the first few steps into the store. He enters and shuts the door.
This is his shop, right?
It does appear that way.
Is this is there anything out front that would indicate that his business is taxidermy?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So there is a sign that says taxidermy, although it's written in the French version rather than the English. But it is a small sign.
Yeah.
And you notice that he has to unlock the door, which is a little bit strange for you because the shop is open, but the door is locked. So that does it's something that pricks in your mind a little bit.
Yeah, that is strange. Oh, I see that your business is taxidermy, is it?
Indeed. He doesn't seem to warm to the idea of talking about it, though. He's not cheerful about it.
That's fine. Maggie will not press any further than that.
I've been doing it since I got back from the war. He stubs the cigarette he was smoking out and immediately lights another one. You see that there are really heavy red curtains in here, too, that block out all sorts of light.
Super duper.
And the other thing that's noticeable about this room is that the fireplace in here is roaring hot. And so it is a combination of an enclosed space with an array of birds and mammals that are all seemingly fixated on your position in death. And then, the roaring fire.
Well, Mr. Wellington, I believe you know that I came here to speak to you about the Sedefkar simulacrum.
It's such a turn of tongue,
Yes, it certainly is a mouthful. I've only learned a little bit about it during my travels, and so it felt imperative to me once I learned of your existence that I come to meet you, and possibly we could share notes with each other.
We don't get many Americans here. What part of the United States are you from?
I'm from the East Coast, from New Haven, Connecticut.
I see. I have never been overseas. The closest I was to anywhere beyond here was the front in France.
Well, this is my first time in Switzerland. I'm doing some travel writing, so I've been traveling via the Orient Express.
Oh, well, I am a voracious reader when I have the time and opportunity.
Oh, well, perhaps when I am published, I'll have to send you a copy.
Oh, please do. Please do. So back outside, Miss Frazier, you continue down the street and over towards the party, as it were.
Yeah, so I'm going straight over to Simon, and I'm just going to kind of lean over where I can keep one eye on the Turkish gentleman. And I say, Mr. Griffith, without being too obvious about it, do you regard the two befezed gentlemen at the end of the street there?
I take a look. Which direction are they looking, Mike?
So if we were at the cafe sitting watching the street together, we would have had to go left. We would have to look left to go to the tobacco shop. If we wanted to go to 50, we would look far right. And so they are still having a casual, slow walk down the street here, smoking and looking in that general direction.
They're looking towards 50, you're saying, walking down that direction?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to get up then, and I'm going to take a toothpick from the table. since I don't smoke. And I'm going to start strolling casually, slowly behind them. Keeping a distance.
So you're going to have to walk past them, I think. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Just as you're getting up, I'm just going to kind of gently lay one hand on your arm and say, these gentlemen have been paying an unwholesome interest, I think, in our Mr. Wellington. What say I head over to Rue Etienne, and perhaps you keep an eye on them from one side, and I'll just be strolling around the street at the house that they're headed towards. And if they try and effect an entry, we will be positioned so as we can prevent this.
Oh, I was thinking of just walking through them.
Well, let's not arouse too much attention to ourselves just for the time being, shall we?
Fair enough. So you want me to keep my eye open? And Mike, I'm definitely getting up regardless, but I'm feeling I should be moving. So you said far right, so we can see the building, but we're like a block or two away?
A block and a half or so, yeah.
What I'm thinking is that if you do what you're intending to do, which is to go to one side of them, I'll head over to Rue Etienne, which is the other side of them, and then they'll kind of eventually be trapped between us if they continue up to that house. That was my thought.
Jim, you got one of your papers?
Yes, I'll get myself a newspaper.
I think I need one too.
Well then, I shall purchase one from. It looks as though that tobacconist might sell newspapers.
Indeed.
See if you can pick up a couple English papers, and we'll go park ourselves somewhere.
All right. So, Professor and Lady Elizabeth, what are your machinations carrying you on to as this begins to unfold?
So I think Richard's I'm assuming that he can see everything going on, so he's seen that Maggie's gone to this newsagent to follow Mr. Wellington, and she's seen him presumably wander back to 50 that we've been watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's incredibly concerned at this point. Didn't sort of envisage that happening. So I think he's going to express some concern and say, I understand that these gentlemen are probably of interest, but what about Maggie? I mean, anything could be happening in there.
That is precisely why I am wanting to head over towards the house to prevent these gentlemen from entering it.
But what about this Mr. Wellington? I mean, we're not sure of his intentions. Anything could be happening in there.
I see. Well, perhaps you would like to stroll down towards the house with me, and you can maybe pay a visit to the shop and see if there is any, I don't know, stuffed animals, a dog, a cat, a possum, or something of the like, and maybe take your fancy.
Well, yes, I have some money with me. I'm sure I could purchase something.
Very good then. Indeed, I think that's a good. We'll walk on that basis.
Let's hurry. She's been in there for a few minutes already. This wasn't part of the plan.
All right, Richard, so what are you going to do about it?
Sort of follow Mr. Fraser over in that general direction, but follow kind of lead if he starts walking a bit slowly.
All right. And Lady Elizabeth, are you going to just allow the unfolding to happen and continue to enjoy your, lunch?
Well, one can't let good chocolate go to waste.
Oh, it's so true.
But I'm also keeping an eye on the building that Maggie and the gentleman disappeared into, so I can provide a cover story. Let's say if I need to get her out, I can walk in and look for her as my maid or my traveling companion or something. So I'm coming up with schemes in case I'm needed.
All right. Miss Bellinger. Mr. Wellington steps behind the desk, and he steeples his fingers a little bit before taking another somewhat pensive pull from the cigarette in his mouth. I wonder, how did you come upon the research? What would have even pointed you to Poissy?
Well, there was some information in the library that pointed me out that way. libraries just full of useful facts. So while I was in Paris, I decided to do a little bit more research. After, like I said, I became quite interested in the simulacrum upon learning about it, and I thought the best thing to do is to go straight to the source, and that is where I had found out the information that led me to the family, which then led me to your letter.
Of course. But there's always so much to talk about when it comes to the city far. Would you care for some tea?
Yes, that would be quite nice. Thank you.
He again extends his hand, this time towards the door at the beyond the shop, but basically beyond the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And he opens the door, and you see him take a left immediately and go up a staircase.
Okay.
Following him up, he leads you into what looks like a combination kitchen and dining room. There's windows here. It's a fairly basic flat. It doesn't seem to be anything too particularly special. There's a couple of bedrooms up here, but the doors in them are closed.
As we're walking, Maggie would probably continue to chat about the simulacrum and explain. The family showed me your letter, and they do send their regards. I did tell them that I would be seeking you out and would follow up with you. They hadn't heard anything about the simulacrum and hadn't seen anything around their home that would indicate that something would possibly be there. I did have a quick peek around the land while I was there, and I didn't see any traces of anything as well.
Really? Now, Miss Bellinger,
Nope.
we know you're not being truthful, so...
No, I certainly didn't find any... it looked like you were looking for traces of an old house in its possessions.
He doesn't say that was me. Okay. He seems to accept what you say as fact.
Maggie nearly has a heart attack.
You do see him pause, though, when you talk about the house.
Mm-hmm.
You see his eyes rise and fall a little bit on your words, as if he's waiting for something. Never comes, though.
Yeah.
So he turns and makes you some tea and makes some for himself, and then sits down at the table nearby.
Yeah. When we had found the arm, we were near like a pond, weren't we?
Yeah, roughly.
On there. Yeah, I might say to him, just to kind of keep him reeled in, that there is a pond on the grounds now, and I almost wonder if part of history was lost to that.
I unfortunately was never able to get to the Poissy residence. That's why I sent the letter. I was unable, unfortunately, to travel. One of the doors in the bedrooms back behind you opens, and you see a shorter man walk out. He's gravely disfigured. He has sunken in eyes. His head is misshapen. He's kind of walking around in a bit of a oversized coat, like you would see a young child given a hand-me-down.
Oh, I didn't realize that someone else was here.
The man doesn't say anything. Edgar stands up, goes over to the teapot, and says, "This is my brother William. Just one moment." He pours him some tea and then walks over. His face, the left side of it, appears as if it was hit with something very hard. There is a long piece of what you can only imagine is a surgical plate that was placed under that side of his face.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not have healed properly. And so there are bulges in his skull plate.
Yeah.
He places the teacup in William's hand, and you see the shaking rickets appear as the cup and saucer clack back and forth as he tries to drink and then sets it back down.
Yeah, Maggie would like make a note to not stare or to, pretty much just stay cool as a cucumber.
After a few long moments, William turns and exits the space. You can see as he turns, there are a series of long horizontal scars that mar the back of his head, where the hair won't grow anymore. Edgar sets the coffee cup near the sink and comes back to the table. Please continue.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm wondering what information that you have found out about the simulacrum.
Well, from my understanding, its last owner was a French nobleman, this Comte de Fenelic, who lost it after he was arrested. At least that is my understanding. Just prior to the French Revolution. And all trace of it has vanished. But I have done some picking around, and I know that this simulacrum is a human-sized statue. And it was either made in or found in the rubble of Byzantium. It's rumored to be quite powerful.
I've heard some of that as well, but I also read that it was destroyed, taken apart.
He lights another cigarette. That is what they are hoping that you believe.
You don't believe that it's been dismembered?
I believe it may be dismembered, but not destroyed. I believe it's out there, Miss Bellinger. We just need those with the will to find it.
Well, in addition to France and Paris, have you heard anything about pieces elsewhere?
My immediate studies have been just, well, on the information that I have on the scroll.
Oh, yes. Oh my, I almost forgot. Yes, you did mention a scroll in your letter that described the item.
Indeed.
Well, I don't mean to impose or be a bother. Would you possibly mind sharing this the scroll with me? I would love to take a look at it if possible.
Maggie realized something.
Mm-hmm.
William never completely went back to his bedroom.
Okay.
He's been standing in the doorway, which is just over your left shoulder behind you.
Sure is.
And he's been watching you the entire time. So outside, Mr. Frazier and Mr. Griffith, you've gone to fetch the paper, yes, Mr. Griffith?
No, Mr. Fraser, you went around, correct?
Yeah, so we'll have a very brief, hurried conversation. And so what I suggest, Mr. Griffith, it appears to be that these gentlemen are keeping an eye on Mr. Wellington. If you would like to skirt around and get behind them, then I will walk over towards the tobacconists and make to go and get these newspapers. If they should go past, I will attempt to get in front of them so that if they do arrive at the house, we will be able to prevent them from doing any harm. What say you?
Sounds fine. So I go behind and you're going to get in front.
Let's start with that. And Mr. Courtney, you come along with me, but you can, if you break off and you head across to the house yourself, and you can just make sure Miss Bellinger is safe and well.
She'll proceed straight there. I don't think we have time for papers.
Aye, you do that, yes. The paper is just a ruse, subterfuge.
All right, everybody who's outside, make me a spot hidden roll.
Hey, at last.
Yep, that's a
Success.
Success, yes. That's what
I failed.
60 under 78.
All right, everybody who passed sees another rather strange character enter the street. He is impossibly rotund, very well dressed. A bit of a blue hint to his dark jacket, impeccable spats. He is dressed at the height of French fashion. And as he ambles down the street, almost as if he is an inevitability, he is making a slow but steady pace towards number 50.
Richard's looking really very concerned at this point.
Mr. Courtney, you head off. I'm not far behind you.
I think that's for the best.
Aye. And we'll head off, yeah.
All right, so Jim and Griff, please give me a shorthand of what's the plan behind these Turkish gentlemen. You're going to hatch on them.
They're heading down the street towards the taxidermy shop. Is that right?
Indeed.
Okay, so I think then I am going to try and get in front of them. If it happens that I can't do, my subterfuge is that I'm heading towards the tobacconist to buy a newspaper. But if there's not time for that, I will just wheel around and head straight towards the taxidermy shop with Professor Courtney ahead of me, and Simon is going to do pretty much the same thing, but he's going to go around to the other side of these gentlemen.
Effectively, what's going to happen is when they pass me, I'm going to get up.
Okay, fair enough.
So the first person to reach the shop is probably going to be Richard.
Yes, for sure. So we'll sort that and then get back to the two of you. They do begin to pass in front of the chocolatier, and so you're going to be able to in short order get behind them. They are moving still a bit. They seem to be almost meandering down the street. The gentleman in the posh clothes has already passed them. So Richard, you scamper ahead, using your eagerness to get down to number 50, the taxidermy shop, and you arrive. What are you doing?
So Richard will very quickly take a look through the window if there's one in the door.
Oh, there is, absolutely. There's a big window out front, except that it's covered completely.
Well, that's very concerning. So Richard's going to try the door handle immediately.
Oh, it's locked.
Of course it is. So using some of the expertise that he gained when he was younger and used to like exploring, he's going to crouch down, look at the lock, and he should be able to find a paperclip or two in his pocket. A couple of pens, maybe. Pen lids, and just see if you can sort of do something about that lock.
All right, give us a roll.
It was a long time ago, unfortunately. And he rolled a 09, which is a hard success.
Right, I'll say we'll take Richard 3 rounds to pick the lock.
What if Richard was to spend a little bit of luck on that?
Yeah, sure.
So let's burn 5 luck and make that an extreme.
Fair enough. We'll decrease it by a round. So 2 rounds. And because you're such a plucky investigator, you know that you might have a chance to get this door unlocked before that large man gets down here. After a few moments, the lock pops.
So straight in.
Oh my, look at all of the animals. All of the taxidermied animals.
So an obvious thought passes through Richard's head. He's never really understood why people would stuff an animal, and he's sort of wondering what else this bloke might stuff if he's not careful. So I think at this point he's just going to go, hello, and walk to the back of the shop looking for any doors or any kind of maybe exit out the back for all he knows, or another room, a toilet, a kitchen.
The shop's not big. Opening up the storefront, you're kind of in the, say, upper left-hand corner of it. And you can see here there's that roaring fire. There's the taxidermy animals. There's the door that heads, it's about middle of the wall as you look back at it. It's shut for the moment.
If that's the obvious door, in inverted commas, Richard will go for that.
Okay. You go for that. Are you shutting the door behind you, the one you come in?
No, I don't think Richard's concerned with that at the minute. I think he's just interested in looking around quickly.
Fair enough. That door, the door in the seems to be the only other exit from the room, is open. You open it. Maggie, you hear a door open downstairs. You turn a bit over your shoulder at the sound, as does Edgar. And that's really when you catch sight of William staring at you.
Maggie would probably gasp a little bit, just startled. Oh, were you expecting someone else?
Oh, no, madame. He stamps out the cigarette. One moment. He seems to, in a deep apology to you, kind of ask you just to stay with one of my. We must continue our conversation, and he hustles back down. Richard, you see in that space beyond the door that there's to the left there seems to be a door. Straight ahead there's a door, and then to your right there is a stairway that goes up.
I'd say I'd probably try the left-hand door.
All right, yeah, it's unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So if you step through that door, there's a desk and a chair. Seems to be some paperwork here. Looks like an office.
Again, Richard's not really going to do the proper investigative job here. He's looking for one thing, and it's not notes on anything interesting, unfortunately. So he'll
hear footsteps coming down the stairs.
He'll wheel round on his feet and say, "Oh, hello."
You see the gentleman that walked down here with Maggie. He looks a bit concerned. May I help you, sir? This is not for customers.
I'm looking for somebody. They came in here, I believe.
Well, how rude. Please, he extends his arm back towards the storefront. This is our private area.
Richard just stands there and says nothing.
You hear the doorbell ring.
And he stands there and says nothing.
You see the man turn and look out into the shop. Oh, please come in. And he steps out into his storefront.
Richard will proceed upstairs.
Right. Back on the street, you're going to get your opportunity here, Mr. Frazier.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm going to walk towards the door. I'm not far behind Richard, but I guess just as he goes in, I will probably reach the door. And at that point, I am going to stop, and I'm going to just kind of lean against the wall, maybe take my pipe out of my pocket and make like I'm packing it, and see what is occurring. With my intention is to prevent them from entering the shop if they try to make a move to do so.
No, there's a rather rotund, well-dressed gentleman that approaches the shop door and reaches out, and he, excuse me, he rings the doorbell.
Step aside, but I'm keeping my eye on him as well.
A little thing appears in your head, just something Frazier would pick up on, and that is that the gentleman rang the doorbell even with the door open.
Okay, it's a right. So is this a shop with a bell that rings when you open the door, then, or is it actually got a pull handle or something to ring a doorbell?
It's a pull handle.
Okay, that is a bit odd. Alrighty then. Well, I'm not gonna. I don't know who this man is. So I'm going to assume that he is somebody who's just making a purchase.
He smells it's unmistakable. He smells like cologne.
Do I recognize this smell?
Aye, maybe a bit.
Do I recognize this smell from Maplebrook?
It's a bit hard to say. You'd have to get a little closer, but there's definitely a
Oh, I'll take a step in closer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you think it might be very similar. Could be a similar brand.
What does this man look like? Does he look is he pale-skinned, dark-skinned?
Oh, he is fairly pale-skinned, slick black hair. He's a very large man.
Yeah.
But he is also dressed in finely tailored garments to his size. His mustaches are perfectly waxed. His eyes are actually a astonishing watery blue color.
Okay, I'll kind of nod a convivial hello to him and say, bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour. You hear his deep voice rumble around inside the swollen throat.
Parlez-vous anglais?
Oui. A bit of English, yes.
I couldn't help but notice your cologne, a very individual scent.
Yes. Shipped in from the east.
Ah, the East. Indeed, indeed.
You hear a voice from inside the shop, Mr. Frazier. Oh, please come in, sir. And the
After you, sir.
the portly gentleman squeezes himself through the open doorway.
I am going to remain in the doorway.
Maggie, Richard arrives upstairs.
Oh. Do I see him coming up the stairs?
I assume he's not just going to stand at the bottom of the stairs. He's going to go upstairs.
He's going up.
Yeah. So when you go up, Richard, you do notice the aforementioned William, this somewhat misshapen head man who's standing still in the doorway, partly in the doorway that enters the kitchen and dining room area. Who is seems to be staring at Margaret there.
How does William react to someone else coming up the stairs that's not
He
his
doesn't.
brother? Oh, okay.
Doesn't twitch, doesn't move. He acts as if Richard isn't even there.
Okay.
Maggie, are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. What are you doing here? It's so strange to run into you here.
Yes, isn't it? I'm assuming that Richard manages to work out what's going on here. Yes, I did. As we discussed, my meeting didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. So I thought I'd find you here.
Yes, I was just meeting with Mr. Wellington. This is his brother, William.
Yes, a pleasure to meet you, William.
He moans a bit. Doesn't really even form words so much. He hasn't acknowledged you, Richard. He's continuing to stare at Maggie and moaning.
Should we continue this conversation down in the shop? I mean, it was the things in the shop you were interested in.
Oh, Richard, there's a terrible smell.
What does it smell like?
Oh, well, it smells like the privies.
Ooh. Yes, I think we should go downstairs perhaps now.
Oh, okay. I will get up to go downstairs and see what happens.
Okay, you get up.
Yep.
And William watches you as you move through the space. As you get closer and closer to him, you realize that the source of the smell in the room is likely emanating from him.
Uh-huh. Well, it was pleased to make your acquaintance, William. I'll possibly be back again.
You just get a fair, deep moan from him. That's really all he says.
Okay. I will casually walk down the stairs with Richard.
Right, you walk down the stairs.
I was so close, Richard.
Getting downstairs, you both come upon this rather portly gentleman who is talking about something with Edgar when you get down there. Oh, I do apologize, Edgar says to you, Maggie.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. It seems that there's a lot going on at your shop today.
Oh, yes, this is my old friend, Duke de Ascentes. He introduces you to this gentleman.
Oh, a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
This is Bélanger, yes?
Yes.
Yes, and this man. Sir, I told you to leave. He points his finger towards the door.
Yes, I'm well aware of that.
This is actually a traveling companion of mine. You know, it's not always appropriate in certain places for a lady to travel alone. He had some business across town that apparently didn't take as long as I thought that it would, and he's decided to just show up here out of nowhere.
The Duke, almost buttery, deep voice, turns to Edgar and says, "Are they here for it as well? Is there going to be a bidding war?"
A bidding war?
Edgar looks a little uncomfortable. "For the scroll," he says under his breath.
Oh, I didn't know you were selling it.
Well, to be clear, I no longer have time for such things, but I know it has value. He kind of presses the point with the index finger raised towards the ceiling. It is of value, and the Duke here is a amateur occultist, yes? And yes, I may be willing to part with it for the right amount. Mr. Frazier, outside, the two Turkish gentlemen arrive outside the taxidermy shop. They are about 3 or so meters off from the door. They stop and each light a new cigarette.
Okay, I am packing my pipe, and I will light my pipe standing at the doorway. I'm not paying them any particular attention.
They give you a slight regard. They seem to nod.
I'll give them a very perfunctory slight nod and go back to my pipe, as if their presence there is of no matter to me.
Sure. You see them stand outside there and then look back up the street. Simon, they look back up the street towards you and they seem to nod, but they nod past you. So they nod at something, but not at you.
That's okay. I'm getting the drift of this. I'm coming closer.
All right.
But I'm listening.
You're listening. There's all sorts of street noise, whether it be the business of the day or footsteps of travelers walking and going to merchants. The hum of likely a book reader nearby snacking on truffles.
Mike, can I see Simon from where I'm standing?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Because if I'm picking you up right, that they seem to nod at somebody on the other side of Simon. So if that's the case, I want to look past him. If I've caught them nodding at somebody, I want to look past them and Simon and see who's behind Simon.
You can lean a little bit to your left, Mr. Frazier, and you notice that there are 2 more Turkish gentlemen at the far end of the street.
Looks like we've got a swedge on our hands. Okay, I will continue leaning against the wall, just bide my time, minding my own business, enjoying a pipe.
These 2 gentlemen that are beyond Simon are walking at a crisp pace.
Does he appear to have noticed them?
It doesn't look like it.
I'm coming up on the Turkish gentleman, the 2 in front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you, they've basically slowed to a stop, so you'll arrive shortly.
Y'all appear to be in my way.
They turn to regard you a bit and say something in a language you're not certain of.
Mind shoving off?
Maggie and Richard inside the shop. The Duke says, "Name the time and the place. Perhaps the 7:30 Club." Sell it to me then. Edgar looks a little wary. I don't have it here, but perhaps yes, we could meet at the 7:30 Club. The Duke nods in a very formal, almost stately manner, and then he adjusts his rather bulbous form and shuffles on back out the shop. Mr. Frazier, a large man comes back into view.
Okay, I'll just kind of step aside.
And when he does, the 2 Turkish gentlemen at the far end who are coming down do an immediate about face.
Okay. Do I think that's because they don't want to be seen by him? Or because him coming out of the shop is like a signal to them that they're no longer required?
I would say that you are going to put your money on the latter rather than the former.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Edgar turns to you, Maggie, and says, "The 7:30 Club is just a discussion group. It meets on occasion in a local cafe here."
Oh, and do you discuss occult objects? You said that he dabbles in the occult?
Well, he dabbles in a lot of things. He's really someone who could show you an awful lot about the city.
Oh.
He might be very useful.
Yes, he might. Is this 7:30 club open to anyone to attend?
Oh, well, I mean, it shouldn't be too terrible for a beauty such as yourself to gain entrance, that's for sure. He wrings his hands a little bit.
Oh, well, possibly I could accompany you as a guest then. Or as a date.
Oh, he puts his hand over his chest. You're too kind.
So you wish to sell the scroll then?
He lets his eyes kind of drift a bit back down towards the floor. Life is much harder now after the war for everyone here. And while taxidermy might be the family trade, it is not necessarily one that garners much in the way of lifestyle. You understand?
Yes, I fear I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't possibly be able to outbid a duke. I don't believe. Would you be willing to possibly show me before you sell it away? Not for someone that's interested in the occult, but for someone that is just deeply interested in the simulacrum itself.
Well, you must understand, Miss Belanger, I have not shown the Duke, and he has been after it now for several weeks. I don't think that I could, in good faith, show it to you and not show it to him. You understand?
You do make a good point. Well, I suppose I must show my cards at this point in time. You see, I may have lied to you earlier because I didn't know your intentions or you know, being a woman in this house alone. You could see how I would have to play it careful, but me and my companions did find a piece of the simulacrum, and we're looking for more.
What? It does exist.
It really does. And you seem like a good man, living here with your brother William and taking care of him. I would just hate to see the wrong information fall into the wrong hands. You seem very well intentioned.
I have so many questions for you. But I must go see to my brother. He needs constant attention, and I fear he may need a bath soon.
Oh, yes, of course. Go see to your brother. Would there be another time that we could speak more?
Perhaps later this evening. I'll have to go to the bank at some point.
Yes, of course. Where would be a good place for us to meet?
How about Le Chat Noir? Perhaps, say around 5:30? It's a small cafe.
Yes, I believe that would be perfectly fine. And perhaps if you bring something to show me, I can bring something to show you as well.
Oh, I look forward to seeing what you have to show me then.
Yes, I look forward to it as well. I will see you then.
Oh, this is just a bit of professional courtesy, you understand. It might not be a bad idea to inquire with the Duke about a tour of the city. You might be able to learn quite a bit about him, especially if you're going to get in a bidding war.
Yes, I believe that is a good point, and I will heed your advice.
So, outside, the two Turkish gentlemen who were the first two that you'd seen do eventually roll back on down the street towards the lake, it looks like. They regard Mr. Griffith with little more than a few strange, maybe Arabic, maybe Turkish. You're not really sure what language they're speaking specifically, but they give him a few words and a few dirty looks before moving on.
Hey, Jim. I got a feeling there's going to be blood spilt before all this is over.
You may well be right. Well, let's retire to a more secluded spot and we'll have a wee chat. Have all four of the Turkish gentlemen drifted off now?
Indeed they have, as if they were never there.
Did you happen to notice, Simon, the other two gentlemen behind you?
No, but it doesn't surprise me. I saw them look past me, not at me, so I knew there was something behind me.
Aye.
I was more worried that it was going to be an armored car or something.
No. Just reinforcements, I think.
I've got a friend who will help with those reinforcements. You haven't met him yet.
Aye. Very good, very good. You have contacts here in Lausanne, by any chance?
I'm sure of that too, but I'm talking about a personal friend.
Oh, I understand. Aye. Yes, I see. Well, let's wait for Professor Courtney and Miss Bellinger. And then...
Look, Miss Maggie can handle herself. I'm worried about the professor.
Miss Maggie cannot handle herself against 4 armed men.
Oh, no, I'm not talking that. I'm talking about with the shopkeeper, though.
Well, there's a shopkeeper in there, but we don't know who else. They've been in there a wee while now. Perhaps it's time to inspect the wares of this taxidermy shop.
How about I go in? I'm more familiar with taxidermy than you, anywho. How about you go check on Lady E? You left her there all by herself with her truffles in her book. Next thing you know, she's going to be writing symbols on the table.
I don't think she'd be going to quite those lengths, but you're quite right. I should go and attend to her ladyship. I shall leave the business here in your very capable hands. And I'll head back over to the chocolatier.
Yeah, you head back over, and you find the aforementioned Lady Elizabeth enjoying her, likely a book and some chocolate.
Probably on my 3rd book by now.
It hasn't been that long.
Speed reading. Your ladyship.
Mr. Fraser, everything turn out all right?
Well, I wouldn't go quite so far as to say that. I don't think it's quite turned out yet, but I'm just waiting for Mr. Griffith has gone to see if Miss Bellinger and Professor Courtney are well, and not in any trouble.
Yes, they haven't emerged yet, which is somewhat worrying. I was just ready to get up and march over there myself.
Well, I was going to ask you, are you quite all right over here? I do apologise for leaving you sitting here all on your own.
Yes, well, I had considered following along, but I figured it might get in your way more than anything else.
Well, there has been a somewhat interesting development. I don't know if you noticed, but along with the Turkish-looking gentleman that appeared to be keeping an eye on the good shopkeeper there, there was a large fellow, very well-dressed, very well-mannered. He was visiting. I'm not quite sure exactly what his business was in the shop, but I couldn't help but notice that he had a cologne on him with a very distinctive odour to it, if perhaps you catch my drift.
Aha. So you think he might have some connection to our little problem, perhaps?
I wouldldn't be in the least bit surprised, your ladyship.
Don't know how he'd end up with such a connection in Switzerland of all places, but, well, stranger things have happened.
Yes, indeed. Neither do I, but, well, I'll be keeping my ear to the ground, and I think this gentleman bears a little more investigation on our part, just to see exactly what his connection might be.
Yes, quite. Be a good use of our time, I think, to learn a little bit more in that direction. Since we're here already.
Indeed. Well, a cup of tea, coffee, perhaps?
If I have another cup of coffee, I'll be up all night.
Well, how is the chocolate?
Marvelous.
Well, I think I might treat myself, and I'll just get something and rejoin you.
Please do. You won't regret it.
I'll go and have a look at the chocolate, then.
Indeed. But first, we need to deal with the taxidermy shop. Mr. Griffith, you're heading back down to heading to the taxidermy place?
Yeah, I figure I'm, 20 feet away at this point?
Mm-hmm.
When the well-dressed gentleman left the shop, did he close the door behind him then?
Yes.
All right. I will walk up and I will try the knob.
Yeah. It's unlocked.
And I will open the door and enter.
So, Miss Bellinger, Mr. Courtney, Professor Courtney, as it were, You are greeted by another member of your party.
Is everything all right in here? By the way, sir, you got some nice animals here. Don't see much in the way of American bear or anything like that, but pretty nice. I like some of the poses.
Yes, sir, why wouldn't things be okay in here? I don't know why all these people keep showing up and pretending that they know me.
Just looking quiet and awkward at the minute.
And so, again, I do have some things to attend to, so if you all don't mind, I wish you a good day.
Yes, of course, and we will be speaking later.
Indeed. He nods deeply to you and then also kind of just wrinkles his nose a bit at Richard before he leaves.
Professor, it's time we go.
Yes, I think perhaps you're right.
Look, let's just step outside and I'll talk, all right?
Is that nice to have met you, sir?
You get no response from him.
You did something bad, didn't you, Professor?
Well, not particularly. I mean,
You did something bad.
I was trying to open the
Out.
door.
Out.
It needed some assistance.
So the three of you exit the shop.
Miss Maggie?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you or the professor realize about how nasty it was about to get out there.
Well, it was perfectly fine inside. I would like to remind you of that comment I made earlier about the hammer.
What I am trying to say is there were 4 Turkish gentlemen about ready to descend on the shop who appear to be in the employ of that well-dressed gentleman who was in there.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't see any Turkish gentlemen out here now.
Are you doubting me?
No, I'm just saying that clearly the threat is gone, so there was no need for you to barge in and possibly throw my cover.
Sorry, excuse me. These Turkish gentlemen, are they the same ones that we saw at the Challenger lecture?
Are they, Mike? Did they have any similarities besides fezzes?
Did they look exactly the same as 3 men that died?
So for everyone's benefit, they did not all look identical by any means. They were darker skinned. One would expect, like someone who had grown up, in that area of Asia and or Europe, depending upon how you want to see it, would grow. They have large, bushy mustache, as is common also in that area. And they wore fezzes. Those are the commonalities. And they're fairly well dressed, but not too well dressed.
So Richard's going to make that connection and say, are you saying that man was responsible for what happened to the professor? The house?
I'm saying it's entirely possible that the gentleman who was in the shop with you, which I do not know what was happening, employs Turkish gentlemen who may have also had something to do with Dr. Smith. So I think at this point it's a good idea to reconnoiter, get the group back to somewhere we're all together, and assess what we know.
I quite agree.
Yes, the Duke.
Is that what he is?
Yes.
All right. Well, the Duke appeared to have hired these gentlemen, or employs them regularly. He may also employ other Turkish gentlemen who were in England at the time we were over there. We do not know. This is a sticky situation, and it was about ready to go south, but it didn't. So now we're going to figure out what's going to go on. So why don't you come back with us and tell us about what's going on with the Duke? And what happened in the shop, who the taxidermist is, and why the professor keeps breaking into places.
I have to insist. Maggie went into the shop and there was no good reason for that door to be locked at all. And I simply opened the door. I mean, I'm sure you'd have done the same.
Richard, I'm sure I would have done the same in a different way. Like I would have gone to the back door.
But soldier, this wasn't your mission to complete. So there wasn't really a need for you to barge in like that. Yes, I agree, we should go debrief somewhere. But in the future, I think you should trust myself and Richard to be able to handle ourselves. We don't need you to babysit us.
Let's head back to the hotel. You've given me a good laugh, Miss Maggie.
Maggie really wants to buddy up to the Duke because she needs information. That's what I want to do. Actually, Mr. Griffith, I am sure that Richard can fill you in on the important information. He was there for that. But Mr. Wellington maybe tipped me off that I should get to know the Duke more. That he may be willing to give me a tour about town. I do think it would be a good idea to get as much information as we can about this gentleman, considering that we may be getting in a bidding war for a scroll with him.
Fair enough. So you want to go talk to the Duke, and you want the professor to debrief us. Who's going to be watching you?
Oh, well, I don't know. Mr. Frazier seems free for the evening, the afternoon. I suppose you guys could you could follow along at a safe distance and we could debrief later.
Well, let's head back to the table and talk to Fraser and Lady E.
The Duke is getting away right now, so I really must go. I don't have any contact information when you just turned around the corner.
Maggie, go. Just go.
sure
Professor,
you'll be
you're
okay?
grounded. Professor, you're grounded. You're coming with me.
As Maggie's leaving, you can hear, I don't appreciate you talking to the professor like that.
Do be careful.
Of course I will, Richard.
We head back to the table, the professor and I. I'm keeping an eye on where Maggie's going.
You keep an eye on her just about as long enough till she turns a corner. And back at the table, the remaining investigators collect themselves.
You must have some chocolate. It's really rather splendid.
Fraser, I gotta go after Miss Maggie over there. I gotta tail her. She's talking to this Duke fella.
Oh, good lord.
You take the professor, or you follow me at a distance. We don't want to get separated. Since this Duke fellow seems to be the one who's hiring Turks, I gotta run. Thank you, and goodbye.
Very well. You keep an eye on Miss Bellinger then, and I'll accompany the Professor and Lady Elizabeth.
I think we should keep an eye on this shop. I'll explain everything in a minute, but he may have something of interest to us. I would hate for him to take it away.
Very well. Where is Miss Bellinger headed again?
She has it into her head to talk to the gentleman with the suit. Then, yes, apparently she's going to try and get a tour or something. It's ridiculous.
No, that's a very bad idea. That's a very bad idea. I don't think she should speak to him at all. He's a very dangerous man, in my opinion.
Yes, quite. But perhaps you should follow Simon and assist.
Perhaps I will. Lady Elizabeth, by your leave, I'll leave you in the company of Professor Courtney. Please do look after him.
Yes, I'll do my best.
Fraser will hop up and follow hastily after Simon.
Can't promise anything.
That seems like a perfect spot to put a pin in this episode. So we will leave Miss Bellinger hot after the Duke, Simon hot on the trail of Maggie, and Frazier hot on the trail of Simon, with the professor and Lady Elizabeth perhaps continuing to eat chocolate. Either way, we will thank you again for your time and your patience and your listening ears. So we can't wait to entertain you again next time.